Hello everyone, this is the East Coast Economic Update for July the 31st, 2012. Just want to cover some stuff that I'm watching also just to remind you what's going on. I know it's only Tuesday, and of course I'll probably go into more detail tonight on the talk show Going Off the Grid with Emmett. But two things to interesting note. I know it's Tuesday, but Friday the numbers for unemployment will come out for July, and tomorrow on Wednesday the ADP numbers will be also coming out. A couple of things I want to point out, and the reason why I'm pointing them out is because there's going to be a huge push to keep those numbers low so the present administration can stay in office, and also at the same time the Republican Party will be pressing to try to get in, of course, because it's an election year. But more importantly, we have to look at the underlying points that were going on. There's a lot of stuff going on in Europe, as you know, particularly the unemployment rates in Germany, which is the strongest finger of the European Union, is now reaching 7 and 8% unemployment. This is considering the fact that they encourage to keep the unemployment rate low. They subsidize spouses, either husband or wife, to stay at home so they can keep full employment. So in the face of that, in the face of the fact that they have approximately 30 to 40% on the dole on purpose to keep the unemployment rate low, the unemployment rate is continuing to rise. And this is in a welfare state or a social safety net situation, one of the strongest in Europe. The other issue is that other states that are not as strong as Germany is asking them to be placed in austerity measures, and you see a lot of this going on with Spain, Portugal, not so much in Italy, but it's happening there, and in Ireland. Many of the rates, particularly in Greece and Spain, have reached almost 30 and 50% respectively, so 50% being Greece and 30% being Spain, unemployment rate, and out of that 75% are working age youth between 18 and 35. So we have a serious problem, and as I had said in the video before, this fist that we started, which is called the CDOs, with all the credit default swaps that we've had, have destroyed Europe. We've sent them out. China paid off a lot of it, or not paid off, but absorbed a lot of it, and it's coming back around through Europe, and it's going to hit us, most likely in October. We're going to start to see it like we saw Lehman Brothers in September into October. And if reality hasn't set in for you, and I know that many of you have, it will set in for everybody else. Some of the other issues I wanted to point out that's more domestic is that as of July 30th, there was a notice here in the Syracuse.com website from the Standard Post editorial board. These guys are near me up in the cabin. They pointed out two very important things. As of 2011, and this is the 2011 poverty estimates or rules, they don't do it until the next year. Poverty nationwide is at 15.7%, and of course I'll have everything listed. That means that 1 in 6 people are under the poverty level, and 45 million Americans, and this is again 2011 numbers, are on food stamps or applying for disability. So if you factor out 300 million people in the United States, extract anyone over 65 who are on Social Security, and anyone under the age of 18, you come up with a number close to about approximately 100 million people. And out of 100 million working age people, 45 million are applying for either disability or for food stamps or some kind of food aid. We won't even go into the conversation about housing and homelessness. That I'll leave for another time. But just to note this, we had this underpinning. We're watching all this stuff going on in Europe, and it's not even at this point the fact that people are saying, well, I'm glad it's not happening here. It's there, and I'm not going to think about anything else. Unfortunately, the Democrats and the Republicans we can go into that conversation. But ultimately, we have to understand two things. One is that, once again, we have another possible bankruptcy, this time of an oil company. This article was from and I'm only using the ones that are going along. This is from April 30th. I only have one, but the others I have, and I posted on the previous East Coast Economic Update. One is that they're discussing that the possibility that ADP Oil and also the Russian oil companies are collapsing. Not collapsing. They're not using the word collapse. I'm using the word collapse. They're beginning to suppress because the price of oil is dropping from use. Also, there is no, when I said before, there is no financial aspect for people to drill or to draw out coal or oil. Even natural gas is an issue, regardless of the hydrofracking question. The other thing is, and I will also post it, is the import-export, the container rates have started to go up. And if you read the article that I've posted, it says it's really excited about Tacoma and the western side of the United States, where most of the products come from Asia, come in to the United States. They said there's been a slight increase in imports, which is a positive sign, and they mentioned gypsum and some other stuff. But at the same time, they said the downside is that our wheat and other products that we export out is dropping. But if you look at the numbers as a whole, and you look at it from the point of 2008, when the collapse occurred, it's actually in a negative position. Basically, the imports are just enough to keep the building standing up. And our exports actually are continuing to go into negative territory and have not come out of negative territory. And we're talking about foodstuffs in a time of a drought, when prices both in the United States, Europe, and Asia are rising because there's lack of food products. So even in the case where Asia, particularly because they've had floods, and Europe, which also had some flooding and some droughts, and our drought situation, they're still not buying our stuff. So these are the things that I'm talking about. Someone had a question on my video, my last video, isn't this a good thing we're not strip mining our coal out of the ground and destroying the environment? Yes and no. Yes, there are better ways of working within the environment situation, but the negative part of it is that we are now becoming more and more dependent on other people's natural resources, and we can't pay for them. The logical thing is that if we wanted to pay for them, if we can't pay for them, we would try to get it domestically, even for the short term. This is not happening. I also have one more article talking about Bill Clinton saying it's real important that we don't touch our own natural resources. And I'll leave that to you to ruminate and see where that's coming from. But let's talk, ladies and gentlemen, as time goes on, the foodstuffs and our natural resources are going to collide in this gigantic collapse. They're trying to add a food stamp bill into the farm bill, which a lot of people are fighting, but it will pass for two reasons. One, as long as we're paying and feeding the masses, they're not caring at this point what the deficit is. And no matter how the progression happens, food prices are continuing to rise, regardless of what the statistics that the government is putting out. It's so bogus, you might as well just ignore it like a screaming child. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that food prices, resource prices, are setting up for a trifecta, and that third part that's going to come down is our dollar's worth. And it's occurring at a time where we are going to need food and fuel to heat our homes, particularly in the Northeast and other northern states, and feed our families through the winter. I said many moons ago that that we're not going to be gathered up and put in fumicaps. We're going to run toward them because it'll be warm, it'll be food, and there'll be shelter. my cautionary tale to you, or my statement to you, is if you haven't begun to learn to be self-sufficient, if you haven't begun to learn how to care for yourself as a group, as a community, and start to grow communities, even if it's communities within where you live, you will be part of that group getting on the train. Not because you're being forced to, but because you have no other choice. So be aware of this. Be aware that this is now the next wave. This is the, as we were talking about the situation with the LaRouche curve, the triple curve theory, that horn that bends back has already occurred. It occurred back in May. It finally, like that, and the sound wave and the shock wave has already gone through the markets. It's just that nobody's realized it yet. It's going through. It's in black and white and orange, if I highlighted it. It's happening. Information all around on the outside are starting to swirl together, and when they come together, then the realization will occur, not just for those of us who are aware of what's going on and what needs to be done, but by the people who either refuse to or are too afraid to do anything. They're shocked. So just be aware of that. And until next time, folks, you can always meet me up on TalkShoe on Tuesdays at 7 Eastern Standard Time. I go into a little bit more detail and I do answer questions. But until next time, peace.